Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you. I'm just really impressed with what I'm seeing tonight. It sounds like you've got a lot of good things going on. So, yeah, thank you very much for having me in tonight. I appreciate this. And so I have two hats, as mentioned. And so I'll be talking from both of them because Burlington is a Republic town. I'd like to, show of hands, please, if you live here and your trash and recycling are picked up by Republic Services. Is that everybody? Okay. It's not everybody, but it's a lot of you. All right. So I figured since this is going on BCAT and it'll be across town, I'll talk from both sides. So first I'd like to say thank you to Phil Gallagher, who is behind the camera tonight. Phil works at BCAT, and I also spend time there, and I wanted to let you know that if you are interested, there are on the BCAT website, there are PSAs, so public service announcements that I do quarterly pretty much on everything from how to be more sustainable about having a Super Bowl party to, in the summertime, what to do when you're having, barbecues, things like that. So how to do better in your everyday life with reducing, reusing, and recycling, okay? So please check that out. All right. I will begin, and I'm going to, having done this a lot of times, I'm going to talk for a little while, stop and ask if there are any questions about the topic I just talked about, okay? There are, I'm sure, a million questions everybody has, but if you ask me about a topic I haven't gotten to yet, I'm going to ask you to wait, all right? So please raise your hand, and that way I can, be very efficient about getting through. Thank you. Okay, this is me, my job. So I help customers divert things out of their waste, all right? And by that I mean it could be, what can you do better with pallets? What can you do better with food waste, about recycling? What should you be doing? What could you be doing, right? So all of that. And she's already talked about all the other stuff, so, but the president of MassRecycle is a big one. I'm going to offer it up to you as a resource, okay? It's a free resource. Check out the website. There's so much information there. We really want people to go there, learn, and spread the news, okay? So MassRecycle is the intersection of the waste industry and environmentalism is how I think of it. So it's all about, we used to call it recycling, and now it's sustainable materials management, right? How can we manage everything better, not just recycling? So food waste. Anybody here a composter? I'm going to guess y'all, several of you. Okay. I am too, backyard composter. Big fan. Have been for years. Yep, I could rent out space in my garbage can, frankly. I've got a bag about this big, and yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit, what I call a short tutorial on trash, and that is because I find that people don't have any idea where their trash is going any more than what's happening with their recycling. So what we do is you're going to be, and I'd like to say in Massachusetts, the state is very serious about trash going to one facility and recycling going to a different facility, okay? There are almost very few cases in which they go near each other. So this is all about trash, and trash is going to be picked up at the curbside in so many situations. That truck gets surprisingly bad gas mileage because a lot of the energy is going to the hydraulics. And so we're going to ask it to take it to the nearest trash transfer station, which is a gigantic building with gigantic doors. And what's going to happen next is they're going to tip their trash onto the floor, as you can see here, and then drive away. And this bucket loader in the middle is going to move that trash around. Then an 18-wheeler will come in and will back down that channel that's on the top picture on the left-hand side, back down. And when he gets to the bottom there, the top of the 18-wheeler is on par with the tipping floor. So that bucket loader can just dump trash in the top. And then that 18-wheeler is going to go to one of two places. It's going to be either a landfill or it's a waste-to-energy facility. In the case of Burlington's trash, it's going to be a waste-to-energy facility. It goes to Haverhill, okay? So there's it was recently Covanta and is now called ReWorld. They've rebranded. And what happens there is that in a very tightly enclosed area, that waste, that trash, is burned, okay? They're not taking things out to sort for recycling at that point. They'll take out very big things like refrigerators if they got lost and ended up in the wrong place. But that's it, okay? So that is a one-way ticket to a burn pile, basically. It's burning the fuel, the waste inside the trash, and they're going to tap that to make electricity for thousands of homes across Massachusetts. Okay? So, and for anybody who's wondering, I will tell you, I asked once, you should be careful about asking about these things, what exactly they do to make sure that the air coming out of the smokestacks is clean. And that was an hour conversation, okay? So there's just so many ways in which they are making sure, and the Department of Environmental Protection, whose job it is to make sure you have clean air and clean water, they are very much watching those smokestacks. So I'll let you know that. If you are interested, call to ReWorld or find them. They give a great tour. I've taken several. They're really worthwhile. Okay, any questions about trash? Yes?
What do they do with the residue that's left after they burn everything?
Great question. Okay, it's ash. And so about 10 tons of trash will burn down to 1 ton of ash, which means that we don't have to have as much space to put it, which is good. And they're going to take all of the metals out of that ash, and then that ash is going to go to a landfill. Okay? So, great question.
You said they don't pull anything out. I mean, has anybody checked anything? I mean, is it up to us as
It's up to you.
to make sure we put in what we're supposed to put in? 'Cause
Please.
if we put something in that isn't supposed to be there, it's still gonna go in the,
Still going to go in. I cannot even express to you the scale at which of the material coming in. It's hundreds of tons in a day, okay, on the floor. And there is a crane, like you would, like the kids use for the crane machine, right? This crane could hide a refrigerator in it, okay? It's massive, or a couch. Refrigerators do not go in, they don't get burned, but I'm saying couches and things like that, it is huge. There's no way that they could sort through things, and it's mostly in black bags, right?
right.
So we ask that you please separate out anything that's worthwhile first, or dangerous, okay? Burlington has its Household Hazardous Waste Day. If you think it doesn't belong in the trash because someone might get hurt on it, please call and ask about that at the DPW, okay? Thank you.
So if somebody did put something in there, it's gonna get burned?
Yes. Oh, yes. Doesn't matter whether it's your diamond ring or, your propane tank, which will explode. Okay? So they do the best they can with it, but the fact is it all gets burned. So if you were at a party and they were just shoveling all the recyclables into the trash, that's what happens. It gets burned.
And what happened if a propane tank got in there?
They explode.
And then what happens?
Well, then a lot of times I've seen the whole place come to a screeching halt, and then all the trash has to be rerouted to somewhere else while they fix it. So that's not pretty. There's definitely an effect to the things going to where, we ask you to do certain things, like batteries are a real hazard in my industry. So if, for instance, you have, let's say it's a rechargeable battery, all right? That does not belong in either the trash or the recycling, and not enough people know that. There are places, whether it is Best Buy, I think Staples now takes batteries as well. But if you throw them in and we run over it with that backhoe, they spew fire. I'll suggest you go to YouTube and say, running, puncturing a rechargeable battery, 8 feet of fire. I've seen the videos, okay? And basically, the guy on the backhoe will just bail because he's terrified. I've seen this happen. So then, we have 600, 1,000, 1,500 tons, okay, of material on the floor, and suddenly there's a fire. And what happens then is that, like this happened to Casella in Charlestown, their facility caught on fire, and then for however long it takes them to fix it, all of that recycling now has to go somewhere else in a system that's already fairly strained, okay? So then suddenly we have trucks that don't get picked, you're not getting picked up, the neighbors are not getting picked up. There's a trickle-down effect to people saying, I'll just throw it in, it'll be fine, okay? So thank you for asking. Yes, in the back.
We do take the rechargeable batteries on hazardous waste day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for saying that. Appreciate that. So lithium ion, nickel metal hydride, button cell batteries, all of those, please. Okay. If you have a question about it, call the DPW and ask them. All right. There's also, I'll show you a great resource for answering questions like this. You had a question?
Plastic will burn? I mean,
Oh, totally, it's made out of petroleum. Yeah, but they actually don't want it, and this is really common. People say, well, why don't we just burn all the plastic? And the fact is that the waste-to-energy facility does not want all your plastic because it burns very high, okay? So where they're trying to say, I want to keep it at this temperature, and all of a sudden you throw in plastic, the temperature goes through the roof, and now they have to wait until the temperature comes back down, and it might damage the inside of their facility. So, all right, good questions.
We tend to put our trash in plastic bags.
That's okay. You just don't hand me, 6 million plastic bottles. Like, hand that to me in the recycling bin, not in the,
Okay.
6 million's a bit much, but you know what I mean. If you've had a party, 60. The usual double A's, things like that, C's, those can still go in the trash, but there's a group called Call to Recycle that will also welcome that. So call the DPW and ask them what they take, okay? That changes over time, so, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move forward now. Uh-oh, am I done? Is that it? Okay. All right, so while many people are doing recycling because it's the right thing to do, and they understand, that there's a limited amount of space on this planet, and that things like paper can be made out of paper instead of paper out of trees, which I think we can all agree, we like trees, right? Especially this crowd, right? So, I'm happy to say that in Massachusetts, we have regulations about these things. The problem is that nobody knows about them, all right? And as a hauler, it's actually our job to educate. They realized in the before the 1990s that the landfills were filling up in Massachusetts, and therefore they came up with regulations that said, all right, you need to divert certain materials out of your trash because it can be useful to someone and it can be made into something new. Bottles, cans, paper, cardboard, not things you'd be surprised at, but also yard waste. Can't put that in the trash, right? Things like tires are handled separately. Appliances, all right? These are all things you just have probably never heard of the idea of a waste ban. So that was in 1990, and we've been doing that ever since. In 2014, they said, wow, these landfills are really filling up. And so they said food waste is the next thing we're going to divert out. And so in 2014, they said any facility that makes more than 1 ton of food waste per week needs to divert it out of their trash, do something better with it. And so that was things like hospitals and universities, big guys, right? As of 2022, that's now 0.5 ton a week, which means that you're getting hotels and restaurants and things like that. So the good news is the DEP did it the right way and had built that infrastructure for food waste. So there's 3 different things mainly that food waste goes to. One is animal feed. If you've got a grocery store that's got things that's not wrapped in plastic, you can literally just feed that to a cow or a pig, right? Secondly is composting, near and dear to your heart. Okay, bless you. And the last thing is something that's new and super cool technology. This is called an anaerobic digester. Okay, anybody heard of this before? Okay, so if you're making compost, literally you throw it on the ground, lots of oxygen, bacteria go to work, break down the food, make it into new dirt, right? Awesome. Mother Nature does it all by herself. At the same time, if you throw it into a container that has no oxygen in it, that food waste, the bacteria still go to work breaking it down, but because there's no oxygen, it's a different set of bacteria, and they create methane as a byproduct, which then they tap and make into electricity. Wow. So we're doing the best thing we can with your leftovers. All right, so awesome. There's, I don't know, we're probably closer to 7 in this state at this point, but there are thousands across Europe. This is how it's handled, all right? So, very cool. I will say recycling is not dead. I feel it's necessary to have a slide that says this because if you have read or listened to the media, you have heard terrible things about recycling. Anybody with me on this one? You know what I'm talking about? I will say that there is just an enormous amount of misinformation about what we are doing with recycling, okay? And it is so wrong. It's not even funny. So for instance, this whole 9% of plastics get recycled, okay? Not incorrect, but taken out of context most of the time. All right, the EPA came up with this in 2018, and the idea was that 9% of all plastics made. Okay, if you look around for a second, you'll see a whole lot of plastic that is not something you would put in the bin, okay? All right? Everything is made out of plastic, right? I cannot do anything with a laminated poster, for instance. I can't do anything with the dashboard of your car. Okay, it's endless, right? What I can't work with. On the other hand, you should know that the plastics that you put into the bin, of the material coming into the average recycling facility in Massachusetts, that about 80% of that material is going to get a second life. That is way higher than most people would ever think, okay? At the recycling facility that I work at and do tours at, which I'll say now, if anybody wants a tour, be more than happy. Just pick one focus person to talk to me, and we can put a tour together, okay? It doesn't cost anything. We run them most weeks, except during the summertime when it's really hot. So at our facility, we have an 85% recycling rate, okay? So it's way better. If you put it in the bin, we really want to do something useful with it, all right? We consider it a valuable material. So if you, for instance, Google my name, Gretchen Carey, you will find me on, I did a show on WBZ-TV, Boston 25 News. I've been in NPR 3 or 4 times now. So I try to get out there and tell our side of the story, all right? That's a big deal to me. And so please feel free, look me up. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of industry terms because people tend to use these terms interchangeably when they mean different things, and I want to make sure we have the same vocabulary, okay? So, reusable means that it's going to be used again in the same condition it is now. If my daughter has outgrown her clothes, I'm going to give them to my niece, that is reuse, okay? If my bowling days are over and I want to give my bowling ball to my best friend, that is reuse. I want all of these things to have a second life, not in my bin. I have a recycling bin. This is a reuse situation, okay? And you will find those reuse bins all over Burlington, okay, next to banks and schools and churches, right? I will say that the ones next to the schools actually give money per pound to the schools, which is awesome, okay? In 2022, the DEP came up with a textile ban. So anybody know about this? Is familiar? Oh, right, good, okay. So basically you cannot, as an individual or as a business, throw textiles into the trash, all right? And that unless they are wet or mildewed. That's okay, we don't want those in the bin. So what we are looking for in the donation bins, okay, is gonna be everything from hats, gloves, shoes, belts, bags, clothing, obviously, okay? Does not matter in most cases if it has a rip, the zipper is broken, it's got a stain on it, it's missing a button, okay? Talk to the people. If you have any questions, call the side of the bin, all right? The number on the side of the bin. But the fact is that there is a space for all of those things, including towels, blankets, pillows, curtains, and throw rugs, all right? Way bigger than most people would think. Towels and blankets, I always suggest offering them to your local pet shelter. People really appreciate that. And, make that a reuse situation. About 45% of the clothing that gets donated goes back on a hanger, either locally or abroad, okay? And they need clothes in other countries too. The next big chunk of it is going to be things like T-shirts that are absorbent, and they're going to cut them up into rags to be sold to painters and mechanics. And the last chunk, which is largely fast fashion and things that are not absorbent, is going to get shredded up and used to stuff car seats and things like that. About 5% in the end gets thrown away. Great system, okay? So everybody takes different stuff. Please ask. Don't leave things around on the outside. Don't give them things they don't want, because then they have to find a way to get rid of it, and it might cost them money. So you're making it a disadvantage instead of helping, okay? Okay. Compostable, recyclable, all right? Compostable means nature made it, nature will break it down if you leave it outside long enough. Okay? If I take an apple and throw it in my front yard, in 6 months, it will have joined the planet somehow, right? Love that. Okay. Recyclable means mankind made it. Mankind has to break it down in order to make something useful out of it, something new out of it. If I take a water bottle and throw it in my front yard, in 6 months, what will have happened? In 6 years, right? Okay, we don't even know how long plastic lasts, but it doesn't break down, it breaks up into microplastic, okay? So if we don't want to be neck deep in plastic bottles on this planet, we need to do something with it, and that something is called recycling, okay? I'm also in favor of, not using plastic water bottles, okay? So, please consider reuse. Yes, sir?
We were told not to recycle the bottle caps.
You were told wrong. Okay. Yeah, happy to say. I will get into that in a few minutes, but the fact is that caps on, empty, clean, caps on is what we're looking for. That plastic is also useful, okay? And everybody asks me, like, how do they use that? How do they separate it out? And the fact is that they're going to mulch the bottles and the caps into a million little pieces and then give them a bath. And some of those plastics will float and the others will sink. That's how they separate it out, okay? All right. I will talk to that in a minute. Okay, here we go. All right, so any question about those terms that I just, oh, wait, hold on. I forgot one thing. Okay. The one category of things that are both recyclable and compostable, anybody want to guess?
Paper?
Good, nice job. Paper and cardboard, okay. Nature made it as a tree. We fashioned it into something useful for humanity. Okay. And if you are looking at this paper and saying, do I compost this or do I recycle it? If it's clean, please recycle it. If it's covered in food, please compost it or trash it. Okay? We're going to make new paper out of it, and we don't want food mixed in with the paper. Okay? Cool. Any questions on any of those things? Cool. Okay. All right. So in 2018, the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, got together with all of the recycling facilities in Massachusetts and said, we want to make this easier. We want to make statewide guidelines, okay? Recycle Smart is what they came up with. So they asked the recycling facilities, like, give us everything you want, and we're going to put it on the top line. Everything you do not want goes on the bottom line, okay? So what we ended up with are 4 easy categories, and I'm going to give you 3 simple rules that should help you remember later what to do, okay? So Recycle Smart, if you're working with other people who don't want to listen to me talk for an hour about recycling, please use this, okay? This flyer is available, and please tell them if you don't see it on the top line, don't throw it in. That's the short version, okay? Keeps everybody honest. If you are the sort of person who will go, I forgot to ask Gretchen about that thing when I leave, on the bottom is the website, okay? It's a fantastic website. They have a search bar there called a Recyclopedia, and it has over 700 searchable terms behind it. No matter what you put in there, it'll tell you what to do with it, including batteries, things like that, propane tanks, where do I go, what do I do, okay? They will head you in the right direction, okay? Yes, Phil?
Gretchen, what's happening in the recycling market? As I recall, we used to get paid, the town got paid for, first of all, reduced our tipping fee at the incinerator, but we also got paid for what we recycle. What's happening there?
Okay. Previous to 2018, China was the biggest buyer of the world's recycled material, okay? About 40% went to China, including, here we are in a port city, okay, in Boston. So that meant that everything was going there. We had a great market. In 2018, late 2017, China put the hand up to the world and said, we don't want your stuff anymore. And there's a lot of trash coming with this, and we don't want trash. And at that point, I mean, we can't shut the doors to the recycling coming in, but we didn't have anywhere to take it to, okay? So the entire recycling world was on its head for about a year and a half. It was very tricky. Now, I will skip ahead a little bit and say, what happens to your recycling is we're going to take it and sort it out, okay, in a facility called a material recovery facility, a MRF. Say it with me, MRF. MRF, it's fun. Okay, so anyway, it's going to go to this MRF, and it's going to get sorted out, and then when I have a pile of water bottles and a pile of paper, I'm going to take one of those piles, I'm going to put it into a machine called a baler, like a bale of hay. It's going to crush the material together, okay? It's going to wrap a wire around it, make a bale out of it, and it is a 2,000-pound bale of paper, okay? The value of any one of these materials, paper, glass, cardboard, and all of those, goes up and down every day depending on who is buying and who is selling. It's a commodities market, okay? So when China walked away as the world's biggest customer in 2018, all of the prices tanked, all right? And we had to go out, Republic Services and all of the other haulers had to go out and say, we need to rework contracts. We need to talk about, because we're not making any money off the material, we're going to have to talk about getting paid for the process of recycling. And then if we make money, we will share that profit share with the town. So that is how that works now, because where China's not paying a lot of money for, you know, our recycling anymore. The good news is, however, it's a capitalistic society, and everybody has rejiggered to use this stuff domestically, okay? As of last year, we actually, as a country, imported more plastic than we exported, okay? Companies like Republic Services have committed to not selling their plastics abroad. So it doesn't go any farther than Canada and Mexico. It's staying somewhere domestic, all right? There are people buying it, but at the same time, depending on the market, you know, as to how much is being made off of it. But we can no longer count on making all the money on the recycling and doing recycling for free. So that's how that changed. Yes?
What is the tipping fee now at the incinerator?
Oh, I'm not going to talk money on
Okay.
the screen.
All
Thank you,
right.
though.
But every ton we take out of the
Sure.
trash stream,
Mhm.
we're saving, I think it's about $185 a ton or something. Anyway, all right, thank you.
Sure, sure. I try not to, yeah. So, all right. I'm going to talk about, yes?
I just had a quick question about the cardboard.
Okay. I will get to it.
Oh,
Guaranteed. Okay. Or you can ask it then. Okay. If that's all right. So I'm going to start from left to right. Okay. And we're going to talk about metal that I'm looking for in the recycling bin. Cans. That's it. Okay. So just canned. Cans that you or your pet ate or drank out of. All right. So cat food cans, dog food cans, soup cans, beer cans. All right. I hear this big beer can people here. Yeah, I heard about the tabs. Yeah. All right, so I'll go through the questions people usually ask. First of all, I want you to empty it out and clean it out. Quick rinse with a scrubby brush. Do not waste water. Rinsing and rinsing and rinsing, okay? Do not waste resources to save resources. Quick rinse, scrubby brush. All right. Assuming you have done that, you're often looking at that paper label and saying, do I have to take that off? Okay, so the fact is that if you throw it in with the paper label on, I can still recycle it. If you want the paper to get recycled, you will have to separate it from the can so the paper can go one way and the can can go another, all right? If you have a lid that you have taken off, right, please squeeze the can a little bit, plunk the lid inside. Both should be clean and empty, okay? And then send it on its way. Any questions about metal? Okay. Notice that there are no knives, scissors, or lawnmower blades in that picture. Okay. That is scrap metal. Thank you. Okay. Tin foil is another one. We will take tin foil if you have a shape. If it's a pie tin, for instance, and it was, I don't know, something very easy and relatively clean, we'll take the pie tin. Just, you know, quick rinse, scrubby brush. If it was blueberry pie, we all know what that looks like after, right? Is that right? Okay, just never mind. Just trash that, okay? It's gonna have to sit for days in the bottom of your sink otherwise. If you have chafing dishes, for instance, under a buffet, you know, that's clean, awesome, throw that in, all right? If it had lasagna in it, don't do that, all right? We want the clean metal. We want the clean tinfoil. If you have flattened tinfoil, it's like, you know, sheet tinfoil, and you had it on a salad, shake the water off of it. I want you to make it into a ball, because if it is a two-dimensional object, it will end up sorted into my paper, okay? If it is a three-dimensional object, it will get picked out as metal, all right? And so if you have it should be the size of your fist, so if you have to, you know, save a few pieces of tinfoil together, that's up to you, okay? All right. Plastic. Most confusing subject ever, okay. So, all right. We're all familiar, plastic generally has a number on the bottom of it, right? 1 through 7. And I'd like to say there's a special hell for the person who put the triangle around all of those numbers because they are not all recyclable in the bin, okay? So we've come up with an easier way to talk about recycling plastic, all right? No more looking at the numbers on the bottom. I don't know about you, but they seem to be getting smaller all the time. Does anybody else notice that? So what we want you to do now is say, can you hold it in your hand and say it is a container with a lid? Is it a water bottle, a soda bottle, a sports drink bottle? Is it a laundry detergent jug? That's the biggest thing I want, okay? Is it a peanut butter jar, or is it a margarine tub? Bottles, jars, jugs, and tubs. If you don't have the lid, it's okay. I'll take the container anyway, okay? If, however, you have cleaned it, quick rinse in a scrubby brush, put the lid back on and throw it in for me, okay? So if you're thinking to yourself, what about Legos? They are not containers with lids, okay? Come back to my rule. If you are thinking of dog toys, also containers with lids, okay? If you are a tofu, anybody a tofu fan? Okay. Some crowds, that's a big thing, some people. Okay, so yeah, there's tofu tends to have like a little thin lid. You can throw the thin lid away, but it is a container with a lid. If you have clamshells for strawberries and other berries, okay, or a clear container, if you can say to yourself, it is a container with a lid and it is not styrofoam, I don't want styrofoam, okay, I will take that. All right, makes it easier, right? Okay. Glass, bottles, and jars. So that's all we're looking for. Wine bottles, beer bottles, okay, fancy water bottles, and jars like jelly jars and pickle jars. If you have a heavy-duty pickle lid, put that back on, please. What's going to happen is it's going to get, the glass is going to get broken during the process, and I'll show you that. And this is the second law that I have, second rule, is that it's going to be breaking that glass up into pieces 2 inches or smaller. If you put anything into your recycling that is smaller than a credit card, it will fall through and end up in my glass pile and end up as trash, okay? Because that's what we do. We break it up into small pieces and it falls through. So if you have utensils, Keurig cups, if you have hang tags from your clothing, or shredded paper. I do not want any of those in the recycling, okay? Right, you can compost that, okay. It makes good compost. I do that all the time, all right? So that's glass. And my rule for the last one is paper and cardboard. If you can rip it, you can recycle it. How easy is that? And all of these rules, there are small points of discussion, but 95% of the time, this is the rule that'll get you there. And honestly, if everything you put in was 95% right, I'd be thrilled, okay? Because, yeah.
Cardboard has to be clean though, right?
Yes, so let me talk to you. Pizza boxes came into the bin in 2018. This little company called Amazon uses a lot of cardboard, okay? So we appreciate the cardboard. I will say though, if you're looking at the bottom of the pizza box, okay, I don't want the pizza, I don't want the paper, and I don't want the Barbie table that holds open the pizza box, okay? But if you're looking at the bottom of the pizza box and there's a modest amount of grease, that's okay. If you're looking at it and thinking, what have I done to my arteries? Please rip off that clean lid, okay, and compost or trash the other part, okay? Clean cardboard. We want your clean cardboard. So the good news is about paper and cardboard is it has gotten easier over time, all right, for you. So I will thank those of you who have been doing the hard work of trying to make it very meticulous and paper only, but at this point, okay, we will take your junk mail, your Sunday paper certainly, cereal boxes, things like that, okay? Cardboard boxes, love those, please flatten them. If you and everybody in your neighborhood decided not to flatten their boxes, my truck wouldn't even make it around town, okay? It would fill up too quickly. So please flatten them. If you You can, at this point, throw in, don't have to worry about staples, paper clips, binder clips, packing tape, labels, and ready, windows and envelopes are all okay now, okay? So what happens is we're going to take all of that paper and we're going to make new paper out of it. And I've actually gotten to go and see this. So they're going to take all this paper and they're going to throw it in a vat. And by that I mean a 2-story vat, okay? And they're going to throw water in with it and they're going to hit it like a blender. And it's going to break up all that paper into wood pulp. So it now looks like multicolored oatmeal, okay? It's going around. And it's going around with sticky tape and labels and plastic bits and metal bits. And that's okay, because by the time it gets done mixing, they're then going to put it through a screen that only lets the wood pulp through, and all the metal and sticky bits get caught, okay? So all of that stuff that I just mentioned is okay if you don't have to take staples out of magazines or anything else, okay? What I cannot take out with a screen is yogurt, tomato sauce, and gravy, okay? So if somebody has thrown in food on top of their recycling, it's going to contaminate my paper, okay? And I don't want to make paper out of food, I want to make paper out of paper. That's the plan, okay? Yes?
What about cellophane?
Cellophane.
Cellophane,
Okay.
saran wrap.
Saran wrap, okay.
Cellophane wrappers like around candy or?
Sure, yes, no. So you're not seeing, that's not a container with lid, and that's the closest thing? Like, that's a plastic, technically? Okay.
Sort of paper.
Okay, if it's paper and it's smaller than a credit card, it's going to fall through my system. So remember my rules, yes?
Cartons of milk.
Mhm. Can you rip a milk carton? Not easily. Not easily. No heroics, okay? So what happens is if it is just paper, you can rip it pretty easily, including a cardboard box, right? If it is paper with plastic on either side of it, because, for instance, it is a milk carton or an almond milk, soy milk box, right? If it is a ice cream gallon container, you can't rip that either. Or your coffee cup.
So not the containers for ice cream.
If you cannot rip it, do not recycle it. Okay? So thank you. Just 1 minute. I'm going to say coffee cups. Okay, so there's a couple of rules. Cups in general are a no. All right? And part of it is that it's going to be made of paper with plastic on the outside or on the inside to keep the liquid from coming through the paper, right? The other part of it is that every other person who used to recycle their coffee cup also recycled the coffee and the lid and the straw and the smoothie and the slushie and whatever else, hot chocolate, whatever else was in that cup, man, ended up all over the paper. So we have said no to that mess, okay? All right, question.
I had a metal question. I tend to stack like a tuna fish can and cat food, and I tend to stack them in one another just to take up less space. Should I do that, or should I just throw them in individually?
Okay, so it's easier for us if they're individual, but honestly, by the time it gets out of your bin, unless you have been really serious about it, they're going to end up in the recycling truck, and they're going to end up getting scrambled and squished and everything else. So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Okay, good.
Yep. Okay, so that's the whole top row. All right, so we have 3 new rules. Is it a plastic container with a lid? That's the only plastic I want, okay? Is it larger than a credit card, 2 inches across, okay? And is it rippable? If you can rip it, you can recycle it, okay? That will get you there 90-something% of the time. Yes?
I just want to make sure the website, I can't really see it,
Recycle Smart MA,
MA.
as in Massachusetts, but MA.
.org.
.org, correct. So you're welcome to come up and take a picture of this later if you'd like, you know. RecycleSmartMA.org. Yes, if you're not sure, you can go there and it'll tell you everything. It's amazing. Sign up for their newsletter. They have really great articles and everything. Highly recommend, okay? All right. So the answer, things that you should not put into your recycling bin, all right? Plastic bags, do not bag your recyclables. This was a thing in the old days. We are way past that. At this point, if you give me a bag of anything, I will throw it out as trash.
You don't go through it?
Would you want to open those bags with your hands all day? People put some horrible things in bags. I mean, sharps. I've had people ask me if they can recycle their sharps in the bin, okay? So not everybody's, playing on a level playing field in terms of what they put into plastic bags. So I will ask you to not bag your recyclables. We call it keeping it loose nowadays, okay? Just put it in your bin as is, right? Plastic bags. Anybody know where these should go? Grocery store. Thank you. Very educated crowd here. All right. I do not want them in my bin. They get wrapped around the machinery. We have a lot of moving parts that are, on purpose, spinning right along with everything else. And it's like if you imagine if you were vacuuming and vacuumed up the edge of a plastic bag. Okay? That's it. That's exactly what happens to us too. We call them tanglers. Okay? So plastic bags should go back to the grocery store. They go to, anybody know what happens to them? They have a separate life stream of their own, and they go to a company called Trex, T-R-E-X, become composite lumber, which is decking, okay? So you've probably seen this, park benches that last forever, right? And frankly, if you're going to make plastic and make something out of plastic, a bag that lasts for 15 minutes in its usefulness, or you take it back and make it into a park bench that's going to the next, 60 years, right? So much better option.
Do they take bags back that aren't theirs? Like,
They do.
I get the newspaper, and it
Yep.
annoys me.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
they always put it in a plastic bag.
I know. No, actually, you can take to the Trex. Okay, first of all, Trex is the name of it. So if you go to the Trex website, they have a list of what you can put in there. But it's things like your newspaper bag, your dry cleaning bag, okay? Pretty much the bags that you went shopping at the mall, right? The different colored bags that you get. Any type of plastic bag, anything that stretches over your thumb, okay? And it includes Ziploc bags. They want everything clean, no receipts, please, all right? But they will take that and make it into composite lumber, so it goes to a good end. T-R-E-X, yep, and I think it's actually trex.com, but you can check. So they also have a list of grocery stores they work with. So in case you're wondering if yours is really working with them or greenwashing you, that's a great place. Anybody know that term, greenwashing? It's when you say you're doing something really sustainable, but not so much, right? Okay. All right, yuck. We do not want food and drink. We want your containers. We don't want the food and drink that comes with it, okay? And I will explain why as we go along, but there's definite reasons why we don't want that food and drink. Clothing and linen should be donated, and we do not want tanglers. So that's things like, there are reuse items like ropes, chains, Christmas lights, okay? And plastic bags should go back to the grocery store. Because all of these things get wrapped around our machinery. Okay, changes to be aware of. We mentioned a couple of these. So gable top cartons, orange juice and milk. You cannot rip it, you cannot recycle it, all right? Cups are out, medical waste is out. And if you look at, anybody work in a laboratory? If not, I won't go into it, okay. And multi-layered sterile containers, that's soup in a box, soy milk, things like that. If you are setting up a system and want it to be recyclable, the one thing that is in is a clear plastic cup. And I only tell this to people who are willing to sit and listen for an hour about recycling, okay? Because I trust you people, all right? So clear plastic cup means that if you have been to Dunkin's or Starbucks and they gave you iced tea in a cup, that's a clear plastic cup. I don't want the lid, I don't want the straw, I don't want the ice, I don't want the iced tea. I want the clear cup. And to ask, people often ask, like, how clean does it need to be? If it's a clear liquid, just dump it out or drink it. You paid for it. Okay, dump it out. If it is a milky liquid, please give it a quick rinse. All right, you wouldn't want it sitting in your bin for a week if it was a milky liquid. Okay, so no lid. No, thank you. Nope. So, okay, all right. So empty pizza boxes, and we talked about that one.
Why don't you want the lid?
The lid is actually made many times out of extruded polystyrene, which is styrofoam in its second life. Okay, we do not want styrofoam. And the fact is that of those 7 plastics, like you'll hear a lot in the magazines about how we're throwing it all away, anything that's not 1s or 2s. The fact is I'm asking you for containers. That's 1s, 2s, and 5s. We will use all of that. If you give me something that is not a container, shame on you. Okay, that's not what I asked for. And yes, I will end up throwing it away because it's not something I can use. I don't want plastic bags. I don't want styrofoam. I don't want PVC pipe, okay? Those are the other plastics. Does that make sense? So, so we're not throwing away things, you know, we're not trying to pull one over on you. We asked you for certain things, and if you give us other stuff, it'll end up being trash. We don't want you to what we call wish cycle. I wish it was recyclable, so I'll throw it in. Okay, happens all the time. Yes, in the back.
Shower curtain and shower curtain lining are plastic,
Okay, that is not a container with a lid.
trash.
Yep, always go back to those rules, right? Yeah, no, and in fact, that's probably, I mean, it might work for a drop cloth for painting. I would think of a reuse item there, but there's not anywhere that's going to take that to recycle it. If it's fabric, you can use that as a textile, but a donated plastic.
You always get the liner.
Gotcha. And you had a question here?
Yeah, the orange juice container
Mhm.
has a little plastic white cap. Are those caps okay to throw in the recycle bin, or are they too small?
What kind of orange juice container are you talking about?
Like a half gallon?
Okay, so it's plastic.
Waxy.
Wait, no, hold on. No, hold on. The caps by themselves are smaller than a credit card and will end up in my trash. How's that? Okay? Back to my rules. Okay. I spent a lot of time coming up with these rules, okay? All right. Quickly go through things that you should not throw into the trash, okay? And that would be batteries that we just talked about, and also fluorescent bulbs. Anybody know what's in a fluorescent bulb? It's mercury vapor. It is a neurotoxin. You don't want to break one of those. Don't throw it into a trash can and then throw other things on top of it with you and your family. That is not a good plan, okay? Neurotoxin, bad plan. So, okay, fluorescent light bulbs can go back to places like Lowe's or Home Depot, okay? There's also, okay, this is my household hazardous waste hero over here. Okay, so he's going to take that. I brought mine there, and these big batteries, and I actually brought in one of those ballasts, they're called. So, yep, okay, household. You'll find them up in the ceiling next to fluorescent lights. If you were taking apart a housing for a fluorescent light, you would find it. Otherwise, you don't normally see them. Okay? Probably not in your house. I had one in my garage. Okay, electronic waste should be recycled separately. It's called e-waste, we call it, okay? Those cords are tanglers for me, but there is very reclaimable material in those items. So please look for an electronic waste day, all right? Or Best Buy takes a lot of stuff. They want you to buy something else, look like it, you know what I mean? Like, make sure you're, an interested party, but they will take all kinds of things. Okay, thank you. Yes, consider patronizing their business for the fact that they're helping. Good for them. All right, I'm going to give a quick run through of what it looks like to go through a recycling facility. I'm not doing too bad on time. Okay, so once again, we call it a MRF, Material Recovery Facility, MRF, all right? So what happens is you're recycling, which once again does not have anything to do with trash. Recycling is a different place, okay? Recycling facility, your recycling gets dumped on the floor and goes up a conveyor belt. All right? These good people, their whole job is pulling out tanglers, things that are going to break our machinery. All right? This is also why I ask you to put in bottles, but not broken windows and mirrors, because they tend to break into big dagger-shaped pieces. Okay? We'd like to keep our people safe. All right? So they're pulling out all kinds of plastic bags and Christmas lights and everything else, right? I told you we have moving parts, rods with spinning discs, okay? Cardboard is bigger than everything else, so we put those discs, say, this far apart. Cardboard goes across the top. All of the smaller stuff falls through, paper, bottles, cans, okay? This is where somebody thought that strips of fabric were recyclable, okay? And this sort of thing happens all the time, where we have to stop the entire facility because we have to cut off something off of our machinery, okay? Yeah, so he's suspended by his belt and has a knife or a cutting tool, okay? So this happens way too often, so please think about what you're putting in the bin. Make sure it's not a tangler, all right? Thank you. Okay, so plastics, metal, and glass fall through. Glass gets broken. I told you about this little pointy things, right? Okay, so the bottles, plastic bottles, just go bing, bing, bing across the top. glass is broken, it falls through. This is where anything smaller than a credit card will fall through into my glass pile, okay? Here you can see my glass pile on the top right there. You can see in the corner, shredded paper. Yeah, that didn't go where somebody wanted it to go. I did this, okay, understand I made all these mistakes before I took this job, okay. So I used to shred my paper and put it in a paper bag and then roll over the top and staple it shut and write shred across it so they would know when it got to the recycling facility. And then one day I was taking a tour of a recycling facility. I'm like, oh, look, somebody did the same thing I did. And just then the backhoe backed over that bag and it went like a ticker tape parade. I said, that was not what I thought would happen. So, yeah, and it stuck to anything that had a drop of water on it, right? So I've now paper machéd the entire place. Yeah, so please don't, okay. You can take it to places like Staples, and they will shred it, and they will actually that material will get recycled, okay? It is good paper, all right? So those places that do a lot of shredding like that, or if it's a shredding day, bring that in, all of that material gets recycled, okay? Ferrous metals get sorted out by a magnet. Ferrous has iron in it, right? So those are your steel cans, soup cans. Any questions in there? Okay, so next, okay, we have computerized optical sorters, all right? So what happens is the plastics are moving along, and the computerized optical sorter will see it with a near-infrared beam and say, okay, by your transparency and your color, I can tell that you are a water bottle. And it hits it with a puff of air that blows it into a bin, makes it fly, okay? So you can actually see right there on that bottom picture, it's flying, right? If, however, the bottle is half filled with water, it doesn't fly, okay? It lays there and it misses its exit. So we ask that you please empty your containers, all right? If, however, it is a peanut butter jar and it's supposed to be clear, but instead it's covered in peanut butter on the inside, that infrared beam can't tell what it is, all right? I have tricks. Anybody want to know about peanut butter and how to get that clean? Anybody? Okay. All right, if you have a dog, dogs love peanut butter. We'll start with that. Okay. Secondly, apparently a soft spatula is the best way to scrape out the inside and get all the good stuff, all right? And thirdly, when you are done at the end of the night after washing dishes, if you're like me, you have a bowl full of soapy water, pour that into your clean, relatively clean peanut butter jar, empty peanut butter jar, and then fill it up with hot water to the top. Leave it overnight. In the morning, put the lid back on and shake it up, okay? And then a quick rinse. Dump it out, quick rinse. So that way the soap is breaking up, but you didn't waste any water, like, you know what I mean? You wasted soapy water. That's okay. You're going to do that anyway. So another question people have is viscous liquids like laundry detergent, or like I did this today. I have buy the big bottles of soap to fill up my pumps in the bathroom. Okay. And if you have oil, like cooking oil, it's the same thing. Put the lid on tight, turn it on its head overnight, leave it there in the morning, get your money's worth, okay? Very New England-y. And get your money's worth out of whatever is there. And when you have used all of the oil or soap or whatever it is, take a paper towel or napkin that's used, clean out the inside of the neck, clean out the lid, put them together, put them in the bin. Saves you rinsing for the rest of your life with the bubbles. Yeah, okay? All right, so plastics. Anybody know what happens to plastics after when they get recycled, what they become? Ooh, good. Okay, yes. So bottles can be clear bottles, like number 1 PET, they're called. So that would be your water, sports drinks, and things like that, soda. Those can either become another bottle or they can become polyester fiber, which becomes everything, okay? So carpets are made out of polyester fiber all the time. And clothing, polar fleece, right? Shoes, Nike's really getting into the whole polyester thing. Hats, my laptop bag, all right? Okay, so it's all around you. This is the good news. And I will ask you to think sustainably, all right? So think about what you're buying when you're buying it. We'll come to that in a minute. All right. Paper runs over another set of discs, and these people are looking for things like gravy, tomato sauce, yogurt, okay? Don't want food with their paper, just paper. Okay, non-ferrous metals such as soda cans, those are aluminum cans, all right? Aluminum cans go on to be more aluminum cans, and the average aluminum can is somewhere about 60% recycled material already, okay? It's a great, great thing to recycle. I hate to see cans wasted. All right, so once everything is separated, I talked about this, it's gonna go to one place, it's a baling machine, it's gonna make a bale out of it, and then you can see we stack up those bales, and we wait until we have an 18-wheeler full of it to ship, okay? And that's everything but glass. All right, so baled materials are a commodity, like you'd hear about on the stock market, okay? These are our pork bellies in gold. They are purchased by a manufacturer or a secondary processor. That means that somebody's buying it to make something new out of it, all right? And this is where I ask you to think about the fact, okay, you're going to put it in the bin, I take it away, I sort it out, I make a bale out of it, and then a manufacturer buys the bale from me to make something new out of it, okay? If you buy that something, you are closing the loop. If you don't buy that something, and nobody buys that something, the manufacturer has no reason to make that something, and then has no reason to buy my bales. And the whole thing comes undone, all right? So I take in your recycling all the time. Please consider buying something made out of, say, paper, made out of paper when you go for a printer. You know, you're gonna buy some for your printer. Look at the back of it. Is it 30%, 50%, 100% recycled paper, okay? Save the trees. It's that easy, all right? The jeans that I have, I found a hang tag on them that said, made out of recycled water bottles. I was pretty psyched, right? So think about it. If you're gonna I bought a laptop bag and I Googled laptop bag made out of water bottles, right? So recycled water bottles, and came up with like 20 options. It is all around you. The carpet, okay, because of this job, I was trying to figure out what bottles become, and once I found out it became carpet, that is now the carpet I have in my house. And the good news is, if you spill something on it, in the same way that, you know, a water bottle resists the liquid, the liquid just lays there on top of the carpet waiting for me to go get something to clean it up with, which is fantastic, okay? Looks like regular carpet, you wouldn't know the difference. So please consider buying into that, all right? I'm gonna go back to, people often don't realize, reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce is the first word. Please make less material, waste, okay? So instead of I love that you have mugs here. Thank you to whoever had thought of that. That's awesome. And if you, instead of using, cups to dispose of every time, you save, I don't know, do the math. If you're a water bottle person, think about, I would easily go through 8 water bottles a day. Like, do the math on 365 days, okay? Same thing with grocery bags. If you're looking for an easy place to start, right, use a reusable bag. They carry so much more and are so much better for the planet, all right? And you'll hear things like, you have to use it X number of I have used mine I've got 10-year-old bags, okay? So I find it hard to believe that, it's not a more sustainable product. Yeah. So that is about it. Any questions? I'd be happy to, yeah.